So we're going to start by talking about establishing goals for your digital marketing campaign. If we can go to the next slide. So we're going to be talking about SMART goals for this particular section. You can't really run a campaign without having a goal in mind. And of course, making money is everyone's goal, but a goal should also give you an idea of how to achieve it and how to know that you have achieved it. And that's where SMART goals really come into play. You may already know about them. I was a teacher for 4 years, so I did have to do SMART goals. Then I moved into the marketing world, and you know, here they are again, and they're really, really valuable when it comes to marketing. So let's talk about exactly what a SMART goal is. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. They should be specific in that the goal is direct, it's meaningful, it's detailed. They should be measurable, and that there is some kind of quantifiable aspect. It usually involves, you know, numbers for it to be measurable. Attainable, the goal should be achievable. It shouldn't be something, you know, that's like a pie in the sky, or you know, something that your team's not going to be able to achieve. It should be something that you can get success out of. It should be relevant. It should align with your company's mission and the higher up goals of your leadership team. And it should also be timely. So there should be some kind of end date involved in there. And for a business moving on to into the digital world, I created, you know, just an example SMART goal here. Increase web traffic 20% by running a targeted Google display campaign for 2 months. It's specific, we're increasing web traffic, it's measurable, we're doing it we're gonna increase 20%. It's attainable, you know, ideally that's not a whole lot if you're just starting out in the digital world. It's relevant because by increasing web traffic, you're increasing brand awareness. And if people don't know you're on, you know, if they don't know you've moved digital, then you really need to increase awareness. And it's timely. There's the 2 months section there. So this is a really good example of a SMART goal. There are 3 types of SMART goals. I'm not sure how to move to the next slide here. Do I just click on the side?
You should, Taylor, if you just click on the slide, then you'll have control, and then it's just a page down. I have moved it for you though. This
it's
one.
Not letting me. Oh, okay, thank you.
I just cue me to do the slide. I will let the attendees know I'm sensing just a tiny bit of a bandwidth issue with this webinar. We've been doing dozens of these and have not had any issues. So please just bear with us if there's a few little bumps in the road. So Taylor, you cue me to change the slide, I'll do that.
Okay, great, thank you. So there's 3 main types of goals. There's increasing traffic, increasing leads, and increasing sales. And it may feel like every goal should seek to increase sales, but in reality, that's just really not the case. In order to increase sales, first people need to know that a brand exists and learn about the products it offers. And that's where increased traffic is really important. Once people start to come to your website regularly, you'll want to increase leads. In the last webinar, we mentioned that a great way to do this was with gated content, like a 10% off coupon that users can get access to by providing their email. And this helps a brand build the necessary list for a retargeting campaign. And once you have that list, a campaign to increase sales can now be run by retargeting those who signed up for the 10% off but didn't convert. So the goals that you set should build on each other and eventually lead to conversion. And as you'll see in a minute, these three main parts are the same main parts of a digital marketing sales funnel as well. Increased traffic relates to increasing awareness about your brand. Increasing leads is about influencing conversion, and then increasing sales is about action. So let's take a look at what that sales funnel looks like. And we can move to the next slide here. Perfect. So these are the 4 steps that are the basic steps to a digital marketing sales funnel that every business should know in order to successfully guide their target audience through conversion. If you took part in last week's webinar, this might seem kind of familiar. Build awareness, influence consideration, drive engagement, encourage loyalty. And that's because the customer journey that we talked about last week matches up with this sales funnel. The difference is that the customer journey is focused on understanding your customer's your customer's experience through the sales journey, while the sales funnel is more about what your brand can do to ensure that they make positive contact in each touch point of your particular customer's journey. I encourage those of you who missed last week's webinar to go back and take a look. There's some great content in there that connects to this week. If you haven't seen it, you know, you're still going to get a lot out of this. So don't worry, there's plenty here for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each part of the sales funnel individually as we go through this presentation. The top part is really about educating your target audience. And as we move closer to the bottom of the funnel, the shift focuses towards increasing purchase and turning your customer into a brand amplifier. We're going to break down each one of these steps, and we're going to start with the building awareness section. So if we can go to the next slide. Perfect. So when thinking about building awareness, what does your target audience need in this section? They need to learn about the subject matter. They need to learn about your product. They need to learn about your brand. And they need to understand how to find you. These are the 4 main things that are involved with the building awareness section. We're going to start by talking about understanding how to find you, that last one, because when a business moves digital, you already have, you know, a subscriber list or a built-in audience. And so we're going to start by talking about how to connect with that built-in audience. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so connect with your built-in audience. The first thing you need to do is inform your subscribers of a digital shift. Like I said, you probably already have email subscribers. You might already have social media followers. Let them know that you've moved your business to a digital platform and where they can make those new purchases. Shay Pascal did a great job of this with their Instagram social media post. They, you know, it's a little bit longer, but it gives all the details that a person needs in order to place an order. So that was really great. They've been doing a really great job with that aspect of their business. The next thing that you should focus on is growing your target through user-generated content campaigns. And what this does is it activates your built-in audience to expand your reach. So a user-generated, a UGC campaign is a user-generated content campaign. And what that means is that a brand will, you know, run some kind of promotion asking their followers to, you know, do some kind of post either on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. And to, sorry, I think I'm having a little bit of a delay here, it looks like. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can make that better. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So with a user-generated content campaign, you are asking your audience to create content for you. And there is some kind of reward usually involved in this. And so it can be as small as, you know, a product giveaway, or it could be some kind of, you know, gift card or discount or something like that, or even a feature on their page. There's a magazine in Rhode Island called Animal Print Magazine. They're doing a really great job of this right now. On their Facebook, they are running a cover contest campaign. Animal Print Magazine is a magazine for pet owners. And so they, the campaign that they're running is they're gonna have a cover contest, and they had a bunch of people write in a 300-word essay with a picture of their pet and why they think they should be on the cover of the magazine. They narrowed it down to 20 finalists, and now they are allowing people to vote on those finalists on their Facebook page. And what that is, what that does is that got their audience to create 20 posts for them with engaging, emotional content, you know, beautiful pictures of dogs and cats. And then those participants share those posts with their own social network. So now they're spreading even further into their built-in audiences, you know, their own networks. And so it's generating all of these new followers and all of these new leads for them. So user-generated content campaigns can be really, really helpful in building your audience in an organic way. And the great part about this is that if it's people who are friends or who are connected to people who are already in your built-in audience, then there's a high chance that their similarities are going to match up and they're going to fit in your target audience as well. The other way that you can increase, the other way you can engage your built-in audience is to provide industry-specific resources for your target audience. And I'm going to talk about Animal Print Magazine again for this one. They recently did a post where they talked about on Facebook the benefits of a 20-minute sniff walk with your dog and allowing them to, you know, walk around and sniff what they like, and how that's much better than a hour-long, you know, fast-paced walk where the dog doesn't get to sniff around. And that got, I believe, 21 shares on Facebook. And so that means that they reached 21 potential new audiences. That kind of content is really original. I haven't really seen that around before. And it did much better than another post that they did about Lyme disease symptoms in dogs. That one only got 2 shares. And the reasoning behind that could be that there's a lot of different content about Lyme disease symptoms in dogs. However, you know, the sniff walk is really unique and original, so people are going to share that more. So try to make your content that you're putting on your website, your social media, specific to your audience, resources that can help them, but also really original content. And there's also, I didn't include this because it's talking about built-in audience, but there's also the opportunity to plug into audiences who are interested in your brand's industry. 2 ways to do this. The first is through Google search campaigns. They can be really effective, but they do take some effort. If you want to go this route and you don't know much about it, Google has a skills shop and it's free. You can take self-paced classes to learn the ins and outs of running many different types of Google Ads campaigns. It's not easy, I'll say that. Each type of campaign takes probably about a week of dedicated input to be able to learn the content and pass the certifications. And even then, you only get really a base level understanding of the concepts. So this might be a viable option for small businesses who have marketers on staff, or a dedicated marketer on staff. If you're a nonprofit organization, there's a huge incentive for you to be using Google Ads in the form of the Google Ad Grant program. If you apply to the program and you're accepted into the program as a nonprofit, then they'll give you $10,000 of in-kind donations for Google ad spending every month. And that's a lot of ads that you can run. And there are some restrictions, but it's pretty great. It's a pretty great deal, and something that nonprofits should really look into and take advantage of. The other thing you can do in order to reach similar audiences is paid media search campaign. And this can also be a great way to get the word out about your brand. And again, these are complicated, they do involve a good deal of research. And you can get background knowledge through, Instagram has their own classes and Facebook has their own classes, which are both free resources. But that's really good for businesses who have a social media coordinator on staff in order to give some training there.
Taylor,
so
this
the
might
next
be a
thing you're
good,
going to want to do,
this might be a good point to just interject. We've had one question from an attendee about the most beneficial places to advertise online. And you just mentioned a couple different things about Google. So as you and David go through the rest of this content, maybe you can kind of keep in mind this particular question. Is it advertising online, Facebook sponsored ads, Google ads, banner ads, etc.? If you can maybe weave that into some of your comments. Thank you.
And specifically with where is the best place to advertise online, that's going to vary. It really depends on who your target audience is. That was one thing we talked about last week with the customer journey is, really narrowing down that target audience, figuring out who they are. And by figuring out who they are, then you can start to look into where they are. So one thing we talked about last week is that if millennials are your target audience, just going off of demographics, if millennials are your target audience, then Instagram is going to be a really great place to find millennials. So you're going to want to advertise there. If your target audience is, for instance, if Nike was going to run, if they were going to run a campaign to promote workout clothing for people, 50 to 65, Facebook would be a great place to put those ads because the Facebook population tends to skew more towards 50 to 65 age. So it really depends. You really got to figure out who exactly is your target audience. I know we want to sell to everyone, and it's easy to say, our products are for everyone, but in order to be successful, it's important to be very focused in who you're marketing towards. And once you start to become focused with that target audience, you can establish a secondary target audience, a tertiary target audience. But like I said, that's going to depend on the business. So doing a customer journey map and figuring out who your audience segment that you're going to be marketing to is very important for that. So that's figuring out who your built-in audience is. So the next thing that's really important is optimizing your Google business. That's going to be on the next slide. So if you have a physical location for your business, then verifying your Google business account is really, really important. And you can do this by going to google.com/business, and you can create an account, and there's a few ways Google verifies your business. They might call you, they might email you, or they might send you a postcard in the mail with a code for verification. And there's no real way to opt in for the email over the postcard. It's just whatever they deem necessary. But once you have verified your Google My Business, it's important to include an accurate address. This adds your Google business to Google Maps and makes you discoverable. Then you also need to link your website so that you have a central place to drive your target audience to in order for e-commerce purposes or being able to educate them about your products and services. You should also include contact information for your Google My Business. A phone number is great, but there's also the opportunity to add a cell phone for SMS text messaging. It opens up an entirely new line of communication and allows you to reach customers the way they most feel comfortable to do so. If you are, again, this goes back to who your target audience is. If your target audience is millennials, then having that option for texting, might not be a bad idea. If your target audience is older, they might not want to text, they might want to call, but having that option open and available allows your audience to make that decision. And then lastly, you want to include professional images of your business. If you're a restaurant, you can include food too, but you don't really need to include pictures of your product. It's more about introducing the place, the physical space, and the brand. And you can include a picture of your logo too as the first one that a user sees. It's kind of like the cover photo, and that can be helpful as well. So the next thing we're going to talk about after you have connected with your built-in audience and you have optimized your Google My Business is that you're going to work on increasing your organic search. So when people search for you on the internet, on Google, where do you rank and how do you increase that rank? The first step is to think about, you've defined your target audience. So what is your target audience searching for? It's the most important step to think about. And that helps you build a keyword list. And then once you get that keyword list, you can think about the industry knowledge that you could provide to the field in order to help your customers based on what they're searching for and incorporate those keywords. And then you're going to build that content to incorporate those keywords. So as an example, let's think about a cyclist, someone who bicycles a lot. Maybe the cyclist, he's part of a target audience for a bike store, and he wants to increase the distance that he's able to cycle. So what might he be searching for? He might be searching something like distance training for cycling or how to increase cycling endurance. And then you got to think about what problems might he be facing to increase his distance. You might be searching for things like stretches for cycling or best cycling playlists or how to decrease wind resistance. The cyclist is looking for knowledge he doesn't have. He's researching these types of things. And these types of queries are called informational queries. Informational queries provide an opportunity for brands to create content that their target audience might be searching for in order to establish themselves as leaders in the industry. So let's say this local bike shop has articles that helps the cyclist with each of his queries. Every time the bike shop provides the necessary information that the cyclist is looking for, it's increasing its brand affinity with that cyclist. And now when he needs a tune-up or he's looking to buy new tires, the place that he's probably going to go is that bike shop that was able to provide him with all of that expert information because he's going to trust them with his bike. You can do this for your brand as well. After last week's webinar, you've probably been considering your target audience's behaviors and how they've been changing. Think about what they might be searching for now within your industry. And you can write down those keywords, and that's your keywords list. Decide which of the keywords you can create content for. In most cases, the more content you can create, the better, as long as they're quality articles. Then you go ahead and create the content. Be sure to incorporate the keywords. If you're making videos, be sure to have descriptions that incorporate the keywords. Google doesn't really read pictures or videos well when it comes to indexing your site. indexing is when they Google sends out these like programs called crawlers, and they look at the code content of your site. And then what they do is they decide where it ranks. So make sure if you have videos or pictures, you have that text that explains what they are. And we're going to get into exactly what we're going to talk about creating that keyword list, because it is so important for creating content. And we're going to talk about it by breaking down the different queries.
Taylor?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe before we move on, there were a couple questions that came out when you were talking about some of the Google My Business elements. Mm-hmm. And maybe David, I'll cue these over to you first, and Taylor, you can add any additional comments. So first question is, what do you do about negative comments on Google? And secondly, Taylor, you mentioned professional images. Does that mean they need to be taken by a professional photographer? Maybe David, we'll start with you to offer some guidance.
Sure. So let's talk about the images first and tackle that. So this relates to the Google My Business listing. So when you search in Google, there will be your company that comes up with the hours, the address, the phone number, etc. And there's the option for reviews, which is excellent if you have mostly good reviews. And you know, the occasional bad review isn't necessarily a huge negative, but we'll talk about how to address that. But your presentation, you do have control over, and the imagery there could play a good factor in terms of your ranking, or just simply your presentation to this is what we're all about. So the question is about professional imagery, and what does that mean? And in the age of iPhones and all the modern smartphones that we have here, you really can get away with taking your own imagery, but you need to be very honest if the quality level is there or not. The phones that we have typically are good enough for what we might need, but does that mean that we have the right, you know, professional photographer's mindset of how do we frame things, how do we take the right angles on different products that we might be presenting, or at our office, or etc. So I wouldn't go crazy running out there to get a professional photographer if it's a worry, if it's something you're not ready to invest in. Just be mindful of, if you were on the other side of the screen, if you were the potential customer, does this look professional enough? Is it quality enough of an image? Is it clear what we're taking the image of and why? That they would not be, you know, taken aback by the quality level, because that does reflect back on you. And likewise, if they continue on reading through and they see the reviews, again, negative reviews aren't always bad. It actually has been shown that if you have all 5 stars versus someone who has 4.4 stars, the 4.4 might seem more believable. So people are drawn to that, but you do need to respond to them. And you never want to respond in a negative manner. You want to just address their concerns, acknowledge that they have the concern, and try to take the issue offline. Make it clear that you're working with that customer, but ask them to reach out to you directly. So the back and forth doesn't have to happen online, but if people are looking through those reviews and they say, oh, that person had an issue, but at least they're taken care of, perfect. That's exactly where you want to leave it. Again, this is all just, what is it going to look like to the people on the other side of the screen, the other potential customers out there?
Yeah, and in a little bit, we're going to talk about peer-to-peer marketing, which is using reviews to influence consideration. And there are, in that section, we talk about reviews. There's 2 types of bad reviews, really. The first is a no contact review. And that's when a customer gives a bad review, but hasn't contacted the brand about it directly first. So brand can respond to that by responding publicly on the comment. And like David said, saying, you know, I'm sorry, this was something that you had a negative experience with this. I'd love for you to contact us directly so we can try to resolve this issue. And then you take it offline that way. And then the second type of bad review is like a last resort review. And this is when a customer has tried to resolve an issue, but has been unsuccessful in doing so. And so they take it to social media or to Google My Business to leave a bad review and say, you know, you know, I tried all these things and it didn't work. And the best way that I've seen brands respond to that is to acknowledge the experience that the customer had, review the solves for the issue that the brand attempted to provide, but not in a negative way. And like, you know, we tried this, I'm sorry that didn't work for you. And then, you know, wish them a better experience in the future. And by doing so, the brand makes public the different ways that it tried to solve the negative experience. And also it helps potentially reassure customers who are those onlookers, because that's really who your audience is. You're not responding directly to that. You are responding directly to that person, but that message has to be thought of as your audience is people who are looking at that review. So are the people looking at that review going to feel reassured by what you said? Okay, so let's talk about types of search queries. So there are 3 types of search queries that the regular user performs when they go to Google or to Bing or to, you know, any kind of search engine. The first is an informational query. Like I said before, this is when a person has a question, they're looking for information on a topic. So for this, let's talk about a consumer trend that is exploding right now. A lot of people are at home, they're baking. And so they've been experimenting with, you know, baking their own bread. So let's use that as an example. So in order to bake your own bread, a person might start with an informational query. They have a question, they're looking to answer it. About 80% of total search queries are informational. Informational queries have the lowest conversion rate out of the 3 types of queries. Users aren't necessarily looking to spend money or to sign up for a newsletter, so they generally don't on an informational query. But there is a really strong opportunity here to create an early touch point with a customer and introduce your brand. And this is like the example of the bike shop before. In our first webinar, we discussed the difference between push and pull communications. Informational queries are where pull communication really comes in handy. The audience you're addressing here is usually an affinity audience, and an affinity audience are people whose psychographics, like their interests match up with your brand. So for instance, people really into hiking would be Patagonia's affinity audience. They take into account, you know, total search psychographics, you know, information about demographics, things like that. It's about 80% of a person's search history because it's 80% of total searches. So it has a little bit more weight. So pull communication, like I was saying, is any information that is accessible to a recipient on their terms. This is information like PDF resources, knowledge repositories, how-to videos, ebooks, blog posts. And this is the best moment to make an introduction to your brand and raise brand awareness in your target audience by providing these types of communication. And it really does 2 things. It establishes you as an expert in the field and a go-to resource when they start thinking about purchasing something related to their informational search. And by doing so, you establish yourself early on so you stand out from the rest of the crowd. And you have a higher chance of becoming a navigational search, that last type of search, towards the end. And the second thing it does is that it provides information to someone that they see as valuable. And that creates a sense of indebtedness. When we think about NPR, PBS, they both provide information, and in return, they run donation campaigns that successfully fund their work. And the real question is, why do people donate? They donate because they get information that they consider is valuable, and they want to compensate the institution that provides it. So the same concept holds true with brands. That feeling of indebtedness in people pushes them to want to purchase with the brand that gave them the information early on. So once a user has found information on how to make sourdough bread, they realize that it's much easier to use a sourdough starter. And this is where a user might enter a transactional query. A transactional query is when a user is looking to complete some kind of action on the internet. And it doesn't have to be a purchase. It can be signing up for a newsletter, donating downloading an app, anything like that. The product is what the user is interested in during the transactional query, not necessarily the brand. And these search queries have a moderate conversion rate. But the thing is that they only account for 10% of total searches. And this is when Google search and shopping ads can come in handy. It helps put your brand in front of your target audience when they're looking to buy. This type of audience is called an in-market audience. They want to convert, but you have to convince them that they should convert with your brand and your product. And then the last type of query is a navigational query. This is when a user knows what they want, but they may not necessarily know how to get there, like the URL of a web page. So in this example, the user found out that 7 Stars Bakery sells sourdough starter. So they Google 7 Stars Bakery in order to navigate to their website and convert. Navigational queries have the highest conversion rate because they're people who are specifically seeking out this brand for a specific reason. Again, they only account for 10% of total searches. And it's important to make sure that when people search for your brand, you're at the top of the list. Sometimes marketers, not nice marketers, will purchase Google ads on competitors' keywords. I've seen this with larger brands. For example, I searched Whole Foods Catering one time, and Stop and Shop Catering came up as a paid ad at the top. And it's a sneaky tactic. It's a quick way to alienate people. So I just wanted to mention it to say, try not to do that. You don't want to be, you don't want to be alienating anyone. So just make sure that you own your own keywords and nobody's doing that to you is the important thing. So understanding queries are important because when we look at creating a keyword list, we need to break that keyword list down into those 3 types of queries. What are those 3 types of keywords that people are going to be searching for? So this is a very basic example of a keyword list on the target audience of a home baker and the sourdough bread starter example that I was talking about. If you were a part of the first webinar, we talked about audience segmentation and how to define your target audience. Home baker might be what I call the target audience, but there are demographics and psychographics who go into what that audience is. It might be 26 to 37-year-olds who are married and have 1 child or something. It would be something you would have to go in-depth research on. The informational queries can help determine what kind of pull communication you should be developing. In this example, having articles about what exactly sourdough starter is and the process of making sourdough bread would be super helpful to 7 Stars to make an early connection with their target audience. To establish themselves as experts in bread making and to create brand awareness for a navigational search later on. The transactional queries list can help 7 Stars develop their product listing copy content. So by doing so, they can increase the rank of their products on search. So when you're looking at transactional, you're really looking on what are those descriptions of my product going to be. And then that way, when those in-market audiences are searching for the product, you appear closer to the top of the list. And then lastly, the navigational queries are how an audience finds your website directly. So try to think of as many variations of your brand's name as a user might put in. Research those variations, see how easy it would be for them to find you. This is also why creating touch points during informational queries is really important. It creates better brand recall for the users so that they don't type in the wrong thing and end up somewhere else, making a purchase somewhere else. So keywords lists, they really have 2 uses. They help inform content creation on your website to increase organic search, and they are also a good starting place for paid search campaigns, which I mentioned earlier. If you're a nonprofit, like I said, you have that opportunity for the $10,000 a month Google grant. Definitely something to look into. there are tools that you can use for building these keyword lists. It doesn't have to come all from you. Some of them are free, some require subscriptions. SEMrush is probably the best resource around for search engine marketing. It can be kind of costly though, and it might not be something that your business necessarily needs to invest in. There's other things that money could go towards. Google Trends is a good like high level tool for surveying user search trends. It's pretty hard to get data just on Rhode Island though, because of the number of people in Rhode Island. So it's more of like a broader country-based search trend that you can look at. Google Keyword Planner is the best option. It's part of Google Ads and it's free. It's a bit of a time investment again, if you don't know how to use it. Again, I think there's some courses on Google Skills Google Skills Shop that you can look into. And then finally, Ahrefs is kind of similar to SEMrush, but maybe it's a little bit less robust. And they're great for competitor keyword research as well as running organic search reports on your own website. So once you've got a keyword list, the next thing you got to do is think about how you're going to turn that into content and what kind of content that's going to be. There's three types of content mainly. The first is text-based content. This is pretty much any text on your website. That's text-based content. A blog is the most obvious one. Product descriptions, about page, contact page, all of that is text-based content. If you're creating a blog and you're creating regular content, 300 to 500 words is a good length for blog posts, but for SEO purposes, ideal length is on the longer side. Buffer, which is a social media manager website, said that 1,600 words is a good area to be in. So it's something to keep in your mind as you're making content. Video is huge, and right now the expectations of video production quality are much lower than they've been in the past. So everyone knows we're stuck at home, and selfie style videos are much more socially accepted right now. The average person, if we look at some of these stats, 88% of their time is spent on a website with video. 54% of consumers want to see more video content. 82% of global internet traffic will come from video streaming and downloads by 2022. So video content is a really good place to invest in. And then the last type of content is audio. Podcasts are super in right now. You can partner with already established podcasts. You don't have to produce your own, and maybe you can get them to highlight your business. But trends for podcasts are really going up, so it's a pretty great type of content as well. Besides content, you can create gated resources, and gated resources kind of move you into influencing consideration. Gated resources are ebooks, toolkits, graphic organizers, education materials that your audience can download and use. In order to download them, they need to give you their email, and that allows you to create retargeting lists for generating leads for the future. After they have downloaded the email content, you can follow up with an email follow-up. And this is on the next slide. I have an example of Alexis Horseman. She is a artificial intelligence robot that HubSpot uses to kind of manage their lead generation. I kind of gave an alternative possibility for what this message should look like. It should really be less focused on sales. I think this is a big mistake that a lot of businesses make, is that they really focus it on pushing sales, where they really should be focusing on pushing the educational aspect. So a really great sample message might be, thank you for downloading our content. We hope you found this information useful. We also wanted to share this other resource that we usually reserve for our customers. If you have any questions or would like to have a conversation about this topic, we'd be happy to set up a meeting to help you learn more. It's really low pressure, creates a light touch point, gives that added second resource that you might have in your back pocket to be able to create a larger sense of indebtedness in the customer based on that information. And then this brings us to our next step, influencing consideration. So in influencing consideration, what does your target audience need? They need to understand the value of your product and to view your brand as trustworthy. So if we go to the next slide, to carefully curated messaging. Carefully curated messaging should focus on the benefits of the product, not the features. This is the next slide over. So don't talk about what your product can do, talk about what it can do for your customer. Peer-to-peer marketing is really, really important. Like we talked about how to handle negative reviews. There's two types of peer-to-peer marketing you can do review-wise, business-based reviews with, you know, like let's say Phantom Gourmet for a restaurant really gives credibility to your type of, your potential target audience. Or you could do members of your target audience. That's really great as well. Develop key messaging based on drivers and barriers. You know, we talked about last week, building a customer journey map, what is driving your customer to convert, what is preventing your customer from converting, and really focus on targeting your message towards those things in order to influence them to convert. Once you do that, you can offer gated offers. This is 10% off coupons with an email address, product catalogs with special offers in them, account creation incentives. These kinds of things push consumers to want to make a purchase. And then let's talk about driving action. This is the third part of your sales funnel. What does your target audience need here? They need to get over the purchase barriers and they need to have the process made easy. So creating targeted calls to action are really important here. You can retarget those who didn't convert. You can, this is on the next slide over, you can upsell with specific product add-ons. So if they're buying sunglasses, maybe they want sunglass cleaning spray for an extra $7. That's a great way to, you know, increase the purchase sale a little bit at checkout. And then free shipping with specific order amounts. So if they spend $35, then shipping is free. That really encourages them to increase their purchase. Once they have purchased, you can start encouraging brand loyalty and brand advocacy. So what do they need here? They need to understand the value of your product and to, what they actually need here is to understand the value of reviewing your product and to increase that image of trustworthiness for your brand. So you can activate your customer by asking for Google business reviews. So following up and saying, hey, hope you liked the product and your experience. You know, you can give this review and it would really help others understand how the product works. This increases your Google business reviews, also increases your SEO ranking organically, and increases your trustworthiness to your target audience. Create a refer a friend program. And by doing that, again, you're connecting to your target audience's network and giving them a reason to reach out to their friends to make a purchase. And then the other thing you can do is a user-generated campaign, which really brings us full circle, right? So when we were talking about that built-in audience and bringing them in, we talked about user-generated campaign. So now we have created these customers who have made purchases, and we can really get them to start doing a user-generated campaign. And so by doing so, the funnel actually restarts and feeds back into itself. And so you kind of create this, this feeder system with your sales funnel. There are more advanced types of sales funnel. I really like the one on the left, but it's essentially the same thing as the 4 steps that we just went over. They just break them out into more into more specific steps. So let's review. The main takeaways are that you need to make early contact with your target audience to build brand awareness. Focus your key messaging around specific product benefits, audience drivers, and audience barriers. Increase cart conversions through retargeting and increase order revenue with product extensions and add-ons, and then encourage your customers to amplify your brand's message and to purchase again. So, any questions?
We don't have a ton of time. What I do want to mention here is just encouraging folks to reach out. This is going to be posted, a recording of this webinar. Both David and Taylor have provided contact information. And then, of course, I want to encourage folks to contact SCORE. SCORE is an amazing resource with mentors and subject matter experts that can help address really specific needs. And I want that to specifically go out to Ivan. He's trying to reach some folks with respect to an activity that they sponsored on. It's a nonprofit gala. And I do think, Ivan, that's something that's perfect for a little bit more in-depth discussion in the interest of time today. But I guess if either David or Taylor have some broad thoughts about how Ivan can expand the reach. They haven't used social media in the past. Where could he start?
Sure. So Ivan's asking from the perspective of a nonprofit gala that they're running. And I think in that sense, you might want to think about if you have sponsors that are supporting the event. You can also use their networks to spread through. So if you can work with them to make sure that they have content they can share to discuss the event, now it isn't just on your own social media activity, but it's all of their activity as well. So you get a network effect there. But yeah, there's a lot of options you can go to social media advertising wise, or marketing in the sense of just posting on the page and getting some awareness about it. There's many options. Taylor did mention the Google Grants option. So we're not talking social media, but it's a huge benefit for nonprofits that you might look into. But I think that, tapping into people who attended last year, if there's photos you can put up there, getting people to talk about it in that user-generated content like Taylor was talking about, whether it's past attendees or even sponsors, that would be one way to address it and to have content developed.
Well, I want to thank all of the participants today, the attendees who listened in, as well as our subject matter experts, Taylor and David. Taylor, I'll let you say a couple comments on this side before we wrap.
Sure. Actually, we can just go to the next one about KSA. We're going to be providing everyone a keyword list planner, like the one that we went over earlier in the presentation. So everyone who's attending today, we're going to email that, and that'll help you be able to build content around what your audience is searching for. And if anybody needs any help with that, you can reach out to David and I. My email is taylor@teamksa.com. You can also reach out to our founder, Katie at teamksa.com, or visit us at teamksa.com/hire us.
Terrific. And one last comment on SCORE Rhode Island. It's a free resource for those who are thinking about starting a small business, current small business owners. And our mentoring has well over doubled over the past number of months, with clients wanting some support and guidance to work through this really incredible economic upheaval and change. So please don't hesitate if SCORE can be of help. We have dozens and dozens of mentors and folks like the gentleman you heard today with the marketing expertise. So our goal is to foster a vibrant small business community, and we do that through our mentoring and our workshops. And so please don't hesitate to reach out. You can go right to the website, ri.score.org. Thank you once again and finally, and we will have another session next week. It'll be Tuesday of next week, however, because of Memorial Day. So we'll look forward to seeing you then, and we'll be posting the recording of this session online. Thank you all very, very much.